make sure you subscribe to this channel. I just wanted to look a little more in depth at one of the areas on the Minneapolis Special Education Advisory Council Statement of Student Need document, which is on the Minneapolis Public Schools website. I wanted to zoom in here, not on me though. I'm going to show you here under the area of inclusion. I want to look at what we'd like to see in the area of inclusion. So this is a document that was created by the Special Education Advisory Council by parents and special ed staff, assistants, and collaborative teachers. So basically what that's saying is two things. It's saying you need more support specifically for students with special education services in the classroom. So that would be people who are hired specifically to help students with disabilities, with academics, with functional skills, with behavioral needs, social and emotional needs, mobility issues, anything related to that. That would fall under the area of the special education assistant, and they would be working under the leadership of the classroom teacher as part of the special education team. So more SEAs. Right now in the typical developmental disabilities class, which would be like the setting the federal setting 3 type of program. You have 1 special education teacher and 2 special education assistants, and then that teacher might send some of their students to various classes in the general ed to have inclusive services, and maybe some of the special education assistants would take a student to a class or take a student to another class. So pretty quick you have this splitting off of staff, and end up having sometimes not enough support to really give optimal support for students. And in the worst case scenario, you would have not enough support to even provide what they're entitled to in terms of what the special education team has determined is what they need. So what the Special Education Advisory Council is saying is they need more special education assistants, which makes sense, and more per program, and hopefully the program could determine how to best make use of those special education assistants. Collaborative teachers, that would be co-teaching. That's another word for co-teaching. So what that means is general ed teachers work together with a special education teacher, and it's not like 2 ships passing in the night, but it's like two I don't know, two captains coming together, the planning together, conducting assessments, conducting lessons, strategizing, creating group expectations, working with all students in the classroom, whether they're in a regular ed or special ed. All students, meaning that the special education teacher would be responsible for all students, general ed students, special ed students, and then the general ed teacher would be responsible for all students, general ed students, special ed students, whatever combination, but everybody is responsible for everybody. It's not just a segregated approach where some people have some people and others have others. So it's a great approach. It's specific strategies involved in co-teaching, and you can see my co-teaching video. Inclusion Space has a co-teaching video where it kind of goes over the strategies, and that would be for the collaborative teaching model that they would like to see more of in the Special Education Advisory Council. So another thing they'd like to see more of in the Special Ed Advisory Council would be fewer students in segregated settings, which would, what that looks like would be, for example, you might have a student with a significant disability in the special education room, or uh, even like a hallway off to the side, or maybe a back room or something, with an adult, just kind of without access to their peers in the general ed, or even sometimes without access to peers in the special ed, because of whatever the determination was made that they needed to be separated. Maybe it was a behavioral issue that was going on, or maybe the rest of the class was included, but they were not included. The one student who was separated. So the idea being, regardless of how serious or significant the needs are, finding a way to include every student in the school setting as much as is appropriate, as much as possible. And there's where the gray area lies: what's appropriate, what's possible. But the Special Education Advisory Council is suggesting that far more inclusion is possible and appropriate than is what is being observed. Also, what they'd like to see in the Special Education Advisory Council would be school activities that are designed to be inclusive. For example, field trips, if the bus is accessible, if they have like a ramp that can bring students in wheelchairs, or if if there's a ski trip coming up, how are students in special ed going to be invited to participate to that ski trip? How will they be included? If there's student leadership, how is special ed involved? What is the role of special ed in assemblies, in school dances, in when paperwork is passed out to students in regular ed classes, and what if are there students in special ed classes that are receiving paperwork to be sent home to families? Are they not getting access to those opportunities, like community opportunities that come up through regular ed classes? So all these activities and more need to be designed to be inclusive to all students. More adaptation support would also be important here on this list. Adaptations would range just dramatically. For basically what it means is, how do you get kids who have special needs? How do you get them to get access to learning? How do they get access to socialization with peers, or friendship with peers? How do they get access to different environments? They get these adaptations, and the team decides on what adaptations are necessary, but they need to be supported, they need to be implemented, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be understood what the adaptations are, whether it's a special grip for a pencil, whether it's being reminded to bring a notebook every day, whether it's adaptation to be in the front of the classroom, so that they have easier focus or they can hear better. You can think of a million different ideas depending on the specific needs of the student, the individual student, and the adaptations are talked about in the meetings, the individual education program meeting, the IEP meeting, with the teachers and the parents, and the team meets together. They discuss what the needs are. That's written down in the student's program, individual education program. So, and finally, the Special Education Advisory Council talks about a culture shift. What they'd like to see is a culture shift in thinking about inclusion in schools, and that's an enormous paradigm shift, where people are going to have to start understanding that it's not a separate program to have students with disabilities and students with in a general education class. It needs to be integrated, it needs to be woven together, it needs to be a symbiotic relationship, where every part of the decision or the thoughts process it includes all students, whatever their disability, even if they cannot talk, even if they don't appear to be paying attention, even if they cannot walk independently. The culture shift needs to include all those students. So that's all I got for right now. Check out this document at the Minneapolis Public Schools website.